everybody. Excited to see so many folks up here on Friday morning, which is also great. We'll have about, I think we have 45 minutes. We'll have about 30 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll kind of open it up. So make sure you have questions. If you have a question, I can't wait. Please don't hesitate to raise your hand as well as Matt and interrupt and ask a question. Make sense? All right. So excited today. We were just talking. I think we've been a long time since we've, but because of the weirdness of the world and all these things, we've only done virtual engagements for years now. Kim Francis is the Chief Growth Officer at Odele Beauty. It's a women-owned and operated hair care business based in Minneapolis. Previously, she's had a variety of roles: Kentucky Holdings, Edelman, VaynerMedia, General Mills, Target. So really broad experience in marketing and particularly CPG as well. Space graduate of Vanderbilt University, and more importantly, earned her MBA right here at Tufts. Welcome, Kim. And Federico currently serves as the lead product development and marketing leader for product development and marketing at Meta. Previously, he's held roles in marketing versus head of direct-to-consumer for Stone, led an international expansion at Leafly, worked at Lilly, international strategy and marketing. Went through Colgate's global marketing development program. Is a graduate of the Universidad del Cima, right, in Buenos Aires, and also, more importantly, earned his MBA right here at Tufts. So welcome back to Kim. So a broad theme of the discussion is on the evolution of digital marketing, and I want to set the stage with a couple points. Reading through some research that was just released from Forrester, where it's their customer obsession kind of report, and they identified a couple key trends I think are really helpful. One is, empowered digital customers want new things now, right? And it goes on to say, their customers have been really willing to experiment, but also have really high expectations for continually getting more things and new products into their hands. But also, the market dynamics are shifting, they're complex, the ecosystem has really become hard to manage, and we're talking a little bit about this going along with us beforehand, that the Commerce Department, of course, just released this week their updated GDP figures, which show 5% growth, but we're constantly seeing conflicting data around consumer confidence, yet spending, and obviously inflation's played a little bit of a role in that. But this is a really chaotic time to be a marketer. How are you navigating sort of this uncertainty, or does this sort of resonate with you, this story around kind of consumers and data, and sort of how you're approaching anything Kim started with you?
Yeah, I think it is. It is a wild time. It's a wild environment. Like, as I look back, I've been in marketing for 15 years, and I think it's always a wild time. And I think there's also a never-ending source of data, and it's all true and it's all questionable. And so it's really about figuring out what's the source of truth that you're going to believe, and what's what are you trying to achieve. I think that for Odele right now, so shampoos, conditioners, new samples back there, it's a great time actually to be in hair care, honestly. Like, we, most of us wash it, so that's cool. Like, it's actually for us.
Pretty stable market.
It's a stable market. It's like
growth with coming back for work from home.
Like, right? Like, like nearly 100% household penetration at some level of the product. So like, that's cool. We have that going for us. But it's also we're a brand that sits above that mass price point. So we're $11.99 shampoo, and beautiful. And so we sort of get to play in that like affordable luxury, clean beauty space where, I don't know if you guys know this, there's a lot of $40 shampoo out there. You can spend $40 on shampoo if you really want to. Ours works just as well. It's just as good. And so I think, like, with all of the chaos of all of those dynamics around, we feel so
today's world, change is a constant, and new technologies, new shiny things are appearing at almost every day. And grounding myself in that discipline gives me that growth.
Yeah, both of you have a lot of experience in the marketing space. You know, that's a good place to kind of start is that technology change, the technological change over your career. You talk a little bit about how you navigated that and sort of how you adapt to this, what opportunities that's created for you across the experience.
I can talk. Yeah, so I graduated from Tech in 2008 and went to General Mills. Trick Cereal was my first brand. And so 2008, this was like one of the fundamental key questions, other than how to turn around the business with like a really declining product and what have you, was does the Trix Rabbit need a Facebook page? Is that a thing we should invest and lean into? And the answer is no, because our target consumer is 8 and that violates then Facebook, now Meta's terms of use. So no, like check. But I think like things change so much. We're even learning marketing at that point in time. It was like, okay, we're gonna make a TV ad, we're gonna make a TVC. What's the objective? The objective is to sell more tricks, guys. Like that's the deal. And moving into the new age of digital where you go in and you're buying a Facebook ad and you have to pick you don't get all of the objectives. You have to pick one. And so the level of specificity that has required has been huge in terms of thinking through marketing plans and what are we, yes, we want to sell more stuff, of course, but when we get into media objectives and how we use these platforms and what we're trying to do to find the right objective for the right point in time, I think for me it's been an absolutely incredible learning journey and opportunity, even, both client side and agency side as well, working with clients who are like, we just want to sell more Pepsi or Sierra Mist or whatever. How do I know if the Facebook ad worked? How do we, and having this conversation of like, remember TV commercials, you couldn't like them. There was no like button on the TV. Likes are a metric, but they're not the whole metric. And so I think it's just required like all of us to have increased sophistication, but also increased clarity of what it is we want to sell the thing, but there's a lot of jobs that can be done, and we have to have really, really vigorous clarity as a team on what success looks like with those.
Yeah, similar story. I mean, after Tech, I joined Google
thinking about brand at the end of the day, it still comes back to, right, how do you build brand? You know, one of the key promises of social media from an advertising marketing perspective was around that ability to connect with customers and build that authentic kind of relationship. How has that sort of evolved? Like, so Kim, for you, let's maybe start with you. I mean, Odele's obviously a very kind of forward on the brand side of things. It's a big part of it is the design of the product, packaging, all that, and kind of creating that relationship and creating that image. Like, how is that? How do you think about kind of how social media has enabled that? How it maybe has grown more challenging over the years?
I think, yeah, it's such a good question. I think that as I, look at my experience, both, like I've lived in big CPG, right, through General Mills and through a lot of agency consulting with the Unilevers and Pepsis of the world. And I've lived and am living now in like startup entrepreneurships, my time at 10th Avenue Holdings, which was a more of a private equity light type of company, invested in a lot of startups. And I think that we're at a point right now where I'm trying to find maybe this right intersection between here's the big corporate framework and here's our business objective and our comms objective and our media objective and our event, and it's like, okay, we now have 15 strategies, so we're going to do all of them. On the other hand, you have the entrepreneurial mindset of we gotta be on social. We gotta have influencers. We gotta do affiliate. And I think there's a truth to both. And so I think and thinking about social in particular, yes, we do need to be on Instagram because that's where our consumers are. We need to be on TikTok, and we need to be in the places where our consumers are. And I want to make sure that we are there very intentionally achieving those objectives. And so we talk a lot about community. I'll be honest, I don't think we're there yet. To me, a community is, and I think there are things even within Meta that are great with community and brand. Like Obvi is a great one that I follow, where they are building community of people talking to each other. To me, that's sort of different from there's always someone in the store mindset. You can reach out to Odele anytime on Instagram. We will answer. We will connect with you one-on-one. Those are different, and so I see tons of tools and potential in social to do that. I think we are still figuring out exactly what that works, exactly what that looks like. I think at our heart of hearts with it, it's an opportunity to introduce the brand, but also humanize it. Also share some of that deeper education and the tricks and tips and hair regimens and all of those things. And if those are us to you right now, like maybe hopefully you respond, we're okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're in a fascinating time with social media. There's a lot of connecting points, with customers. Every social interaction is an opportunity for growth and brand. But it's also a meaningful connection. You have to be mindful of that. For a long time, and I've worked with companies that look at social media as a way of supplying any customer as a very low cost, right? And the ones that I experienced that didn't end up that well. I mean, you end up missing that meaningful part. Right? If you want to grow your brand, you're here for the long term. You have to think about what that meaningful connection is. And you have to find a way to measure it. Right? So I think that has evolved in the mindset of how we approach social media marketing, in the sense that it's a growth vehicle, and I'll get customers at low cost, no matter the value. And I think that conversation is now changing. So, okay, this need to because that's kind of different.
Well, and if I can build on that, I think there is a little bit of this notion out there that there is like a playbook. There's a D2C playbook. There's a social media playbook. And like there isn't one. And I think to the extent that there is, I am not going to pretend to be a D2C expert in the financials of a lot of legacy D2C companies, but I know a lot of them who wrote the playbook have yet to actually be meaningfully profitable. And so there's a real element there of, take those nuggets of what other companies did, but find your own
how are you engaging with your customers then to bring them along depending on where they're at in their journey? Like how much education is going on from Meta's point of view to those customers?
It's interesting. Our customers are businesses,
Right.
that buy ads, and for a long time, I think Meta had built it. I think two things. I think now, and this is where marketing is to tell that story in a way that your business can understand. And I think that look, there's a lot of good stuff going on in terms of marketing. And I think right now we're at this fascinating time where of course, you have that have been powering Meta ads for a long time. It's not that new. I mean, a lot of the recommendations that you get on Instagram and Facebook had that some machine learning in that. It just like exploded in the last year or so. Generative AI and like large language models saying, okay, now we have a tool here that can provide marketers with actually empower them to do more strategic and creative work, well, actually being more efficient or saving costs on other stuff. And the two that comes to mind mostly is one is all the creative features that you have that you start to do, right? And this is actionable right now or soon, by the way. This is what you can have, if you have a piece of creative that you want to put across different surfaces, now you have AI that will adjust that image to the right surface. Before, it was actually relying on people
Human labor, yeah.
and hours, time, and resources to do all that. And now AI can do that for you. Different backgrounds of product pictures, to different audiences. AI can generate that copy, next copy, like you can try different things. So that is empowering the marketer to do okay, let's remove ourselves a little bit from that, now where they can actually be reliant on knowing what people more efficiently. Let's do that, elevate that, marketing job more strategically. That's one big thing. And the other big thing I think is start connecting with customer awareness and that as well, which is close to that I do as well. Which again, AI chatbots and going back to that meaningful connection. You can actually now create a start conversation and relatively more efficiently than you could do before. You don't shy away from doing that. In the past, building that conversational business model marketing required again time, people, resources, infrastructure, data, all that. And I think now we can all start doing that. So kind of crafting that story and empowering the brands, businesses, and the role of the marketer of this is key, central to that.
Having worked in an agency that charged like $200 a pop to crop an image, it's a game changer. It's a really big deal.
With all of this technological change, there comes a lot more data, right? And for marketers, data is a big part of how you make decisions. There's a lot, right? And not all data is equal. How do you kind of manage? Maybe I'll start with you, Kim. Like, how do you manage through all of that noise to figure out where is the signal? How can I use this data in an effective way?
That is such a timely question because I am in the process. So I've only been at Odele for 8 months, which feels like both forever and 8 minutes. And I'm setting this up now. And so we have a partnership with a company called Domo that's a great data company. They really provide all of that back-end architecture so that they can bring everything in and help create those dashboards instead of I am right now manually downloading Shopify reports and creating my own spreadsheets. It's terrible use of time. And going into that conversation with Domo, I have to say, I took a page from DexI and I took which that's a bit, I think it's in.
We call it Analytics 1 and 2.
Okay,
now.
great.
Yeah.
I took a page from Analytics 1 and 2 and thought about the model that I wanted and mapped out, here are my objectives for the business. So here's what I care about, brand awareness and equity. Here's how I'm tracking it. Here's how I want to see the data. I care about my marketing investment and return on investment. And here's how I'm looking at my search data and my CPC, my cost per click and my impressions. And I care about our social. And so I took a blank piece of paper. I don't think it was a pen. I think it was a Word. But I
obviously, you know, so I lead the Center for Digital Strategies here. We focus on AI quite a bit. This is a big topic in work. You heard it in the last session as well. Like, how are you thinking about this from a Odele perspective? You know, obviously Meta has a lot on all sides of this equation as well. Creating models, you know, have been using it for years.
I can kick us off.
Yeah, yeah.
And say, like, I think right now, you know, it's interesting what's happening now. I'm going to double down on what I said before. I think at brand's disposal, and business disposal, is this idea of empowering a marketer to do, you know, more strategic creative work by, you know, and saving money, time. I think the two big areas are those creative features and business messaging right now that we have. There's a lot that will come from there, and there's much more to be done. I think that at the core of it, in my opinion, is that you have a brand, you have a style, you have a voice, and you have the right inputs for AI to deliver the marketing in a way that resonates or reflects your brand voice and style. So we're going towards there. I mean, there's a lot to be done, but I feel that within the two areas that I'm seeing more mostly now brands using, there's a lot of opportunities for brands to just remind the business marketing departments to think of like how can I leverage these features without losing control over my brand, without, you know, still open business and leverage it the best way they can. And that applies both to large CPG, big, you know, businesses, to also small businesses and like small businesses that don't have a lot, that don't have big marketing departments. You may find yourself working for a small startup that even more important is to lean on these tools because you don't have the budget to, you know, build a large organization.
That's us.
Yeah.
I think we're early. We have a very, very small team. You know, the total company is under 20 people, and that's including people who are part-time. And so I think we are at the very beginning of our journey. I think we're starting to take advantage through platforms, and so using some of those tools and features on Meta and other platforms. I'm, you know, doing some experimentation of my own of things like the prior panel, you guys were talking about consumer research and focus groups, and even doing things like using AI to summarize pages and pages and pages of qualitative feedback or survey responses and things like that in like a very near term are amazing. But I think we're at the beginning of our journey, and it's for us right now, our number one thing, we're setting our 5-year plan. And so it's that, as that trickles down, where do we want to be in 2028? Okay, now 2024. Okay, now next quarter. That's the roadmap that I need to have in place to then say, here's how we're going to tap AI to accelerate that. And that's not like, okay, duh, of course. But the reason I say that is I'm really intentional, just like it's that, well, we should do social, we should do influencers, we should do AI. I want to make sure that we're using AI to solve the objectives versus it's so easy and fun to get lost in the play and the experimentation. We just don't have time for that. I want to be really intentional about where and how we're using it because there's great resources and there's great tools out there. They just take time. And so it's just making sure that we're using the time efficiently to save the time in the future.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, as you think about, you know, your career after top and how you position yourself in the marketing space, and you can leverage, you know, AI, and this empowers the marketing role. You may find people out there that say like, oh, I can ask ChatGPT for writing a copy for XYZ or to, you know, summarize this and that, but you know, where do you get it? And I think the strategic work that we do as marketers, thinking that into managing, you know, understanding the business. Maybe one day AI will be able to do that, but there's a ton of value in understanding that and actually leveraging AI to power that. So if you go out there in the market, I mean, I would imagine that for any brand, small or big, you have that toolkit in your skill set. That's essentially our business.
And that kind of aligns to what we're seeing, what we kind of talked about, right? Which is there's a lot of things a marketer has to do. Some of those are very tactical, right? A lot of those you can get lost in the tactical. AI can be one of the ways to help you not get lost in the tactical. It's something for students to pay attention to and experimenting now, so that when they don't have the time, they can make time by partnering with these technologies. One question, and we'll open up to the audience. You know, advice do you have, last bit of advice for students who are opening it up for them on kind of where they're at now, where they're if they're interested in marketing career?
I think, this is always my favorite question, or favorite thing to talk about. I love talking career pathing and also happy to chat offline with anyone. I think it is so tempting and so natural to think about it as a ladder. You're climbing the ladder, you're here, you're getting promoted, you're gonna go to the next thing, you're gonna go to the next thing. Maybe you enter a company that is a more traditional CPG that's gonna automatically be up or out when that ladder goes to one place, which is CEO. Not everyone's gonna get there. In 2015, after I left General Mills, significantly reframed my mindset from a ladder to, in my head, I'm playing Trivial Pursuit. And I got my MBA chip, pre-talk I had my consulting chip, I got my CPG chip, and I left and went to VaynerMedia, where I learned social media and I learned paid media. And then I did a really short stint at a consumer tech startup chip, got by Will.i.am, got bought by Will.i.am, Black Eyed Peas chip. I'm not sure I needed that one, but it was part of it. Cool.
It's a good one for guys.
And why not, And then I went to Edelman, which is known for PR and comms, but leading very large-scale integrated marketing teams of all sides of marketing, great integrated marketing. Left that, went to 10th Avenue Holdings, which was private equity-ish chip. It was wrong job chip. It wasn't the right place, it wasn't right. And so I think that where I am at Odele now, well, I think that's still my mindset. I'm starting to see more and more. I get to bring all of those chips and experiences together, the successes, the failures, the wins, the learnings. And that, to me, is a lot more fun than worrying about getting to the next rung of the ladder, which is so normal and natural, and you're all incredibly talented because you are here, and we're all achievers because you are here, and that's okay, you can achieve. I just think the more you let go of some of that pressure to climb and give yourself room to try something, it's okay if it didn't work out, give yourselves all that grace, and know that it's okay, and that's perfect. It's not one straight journey, hardly ever. It's okay for it to be a circle and a cycle and all of those things. It's kind of fun.
100%. Yeah, I also have like quite an interest in that, but it was not straight at all. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to what you said. 100% agree with you. Trust you. What to keep it up. We have something beautiful here. That there's a way of thinking about your career, how you present yourself in this stuff. And we have this mindset that we get out of here and we keep moving, innovating, and being collaborative. And you'll find out there, as you get out there into the market, you'll find places where there's more alignment with that and where there's less alignment with that. So I would say, like, as Steve said, remain open to what people have to do on that. And marketing until your has so
It's a common theme that I've heard over the years from Tucker Love and I, which is it makes sense in looking back, right? Sometimes you can be really intentional and obviously going forward, but it makes even more sense when you look back and you collect all these pieces, and they don't always kind of move in that straight line. So it's great. Audience, what questions do we have from the audience?
Thank you all for being here. I kind of had just a broader question just about data and how you kind of collected it. So how have you and your team set the right parameters around gathering and synthesizing data in order to gain those impactful consumer insights? Like any specific examples?
I can start, I think, for Odele, the company was founded by 3 women, and they're absolutely incredible powerhouses, visionaries. I think that for the first few years, the brand was really, the brand was their vision and continues to be. And as
have to build that muscle of capturing insights on an ongoing basis. Sometimes that people decide what we're going to build next year, or strategies, market strategies. Understanding data, customer insights has to be part of informing that. And actually, as a company, you have to know that you don't have all the answers. You don't. So you have to go into that plan and say, like, we're going to answer all these questions in the next week, in the next month, in the next 6 months. When you think of those questions, that kind of triggers what data you have to look for, or even like when you have to work with research and with interviews and then back that up with data. So there are many sources of data out there to actually go and answer the question we're trying to answer. So it all starts with asking the right question that will drive the business forward.
I have a question for Federico. You mentioned that you're looking at AI in terms of engaging almost in a chat capacity one-on-one with customers. I was at Google this summer. We were doing something similar in sales for certain sales use cases, which I think is tightly coupled with market. So I'm wondering if you could shed a little more light on who you're engaging and why. Is this to sell ads or what is your strategy?
That's a good question. Imagine trip travel agencies for travel. Somebody that can engage with you and provide you tips. Imagine a language coach. Meta has a lot of reach that has a channel that has become person-to-business connection, and it's investing on that space. Gen AI is a critical portion of that. To do that scale for business is cool. Because many times the barrier for business is actually you have to have someone there to make it expensive. Well, now with chatbots, you kind of like scale that and bring them down the funnel and kind of understand that you trigger that human connection when it actually makes more sense, right? Because you still for Meta is an important way as well, like connecting to this larger ads business. You see the earnings release, like business messaging has been called out across the board, and you have ads that somebody sees an ad or some piece of creation on Instagram, and you actually click on that instead of liking it, or you go to the message and say, how do you work on this? So that cycle of engagement takes you down the funnel instead of going to potentially a product page, and for some industries, maybe something like there's a lot of potential to power businesses with this messaging and AI. That's a people goal to scale that to
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So Kimberly, you talked about being really intentional kind of before diving into a data analysis. As someone who tends to kind of get lost in data sometimes, I'm curious if you have any like practices or processes that you use that have been really helpful in like staying focused throughout the data analysis.
Yeah, it's and like I say it like I do. I've gotten lost in it because I love it and it's so interesting. I really do start with that blank piece of paper and force myself to write out what do I want to learn and what am I going to do with this information. And so I think that even just this morning, I got access. There's a platform called Numerator that has all kinds of data around shopper behavior and retail stores. And I was like, I have the data. Oh my god, I'm gonna like go in and look at all of it, and I want to see everything. And there's a million metrics. And I was thinking about communicating out to our leadership team. What do I want them to know? And thought like they're gonna have access to this. They're not gonna use it. And I just went back to I can look up every competitor and every retailer that's out there in the hair care. So it's too much. It's overload. And so I really thought, here's what I care about. Are we growing household penetration? And are we increasing repeat rate at Target? That's it. Those are two of thousands of data points. And so I think it's that like it's the discipline of I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna probably write down more than what I need, and I'm gonna edit it, and I'm gonna edit again. And I think I am most effective at doing that when I think about not just what do I want for myself, because I'm curious and it's interesting. And if I have to communicate this out to an executive team, what do they want to know? Because that's that next layer of edit that's going to really simplify it out. If you think about not just what you want to know, but what am I going to tell someone else, I think that can help a great deal.
I think, when we talk about
days for sure.
Yeah.
Coming up with, first of all, the key muscle and it's in the sea of data that we have out there, really understand what's right with the business and challenge it. And they have to build that mindset and go through that conversation. I think it's, you know, it's about, again, tying it back to key business objectives and asking the right questions and determining like what is that most effective that's going to actually be objectives. Something that you have stakeholders, shareholders out there will be looking for specific data points. As you want to operationalize your business, you have to make sure that you spend time on that. You can't track, you know, 20, 30 metrics at a time. You gotta focus specific, you gotta find those points. There's going to be input metrics that influence that. Yes, you have to understand how those like link it, those, you know, understand if there's an issue or something, it's not what you really expect. But at the end of the day, you have to really sort of
Well, and I'll build on that and say is we're using meta and things like that because we do a lot of testing and learning. We're starting to do a lot more. We start with the KPI, which sounds really obvious, but like in this test, we are measuring does it get people to go in store and purchase. In this test, we are measuring engagement rate. In this test, we are measuring reach and impressions. And I think that while there might be other learnings and other things might fall out, by starting with what success looks like, and what that's key in being able to scale it into it with any sort of efficiency.
Time for one more question. Yes.
Hi, thanks for being here. My name is Subramani. One takeaway for me was thinking about lifelong learning. So I'm curious how you stay ahead of digital marketing trends, what podcasts, what journals are you reading to kind of stay on the company's trends?
A little bit of everything to be honest. Like I don't have a single go-to source. My favorite learning source is honestly to talk to other people and hear from other practitioners, be it in similar companies, different companies, platforms. I work with a number of agencies who are experts in their own spaces, and so I love the one-on-one conversations. I get to ask questions. When I am in more of like a one-way learning mode, there are things like the D2C podcast and some of that stuff, but honestly, I'm just as much interested in like what's happening in culture and what do consumers care about. I would rather spend my time thinking about that because that helps me think about the mindset of the people I'm trying to reach. Versus I think I have a big handful of experts. If I have a question on optimizing cost per click on search, like I know I'm going to call Lee Elliott, he's going to tell me the answer. I should worry less about knowing that every day.
I'm gonna sound like my grandfather a little bit. Just grab the shovel and do the work. That's the best way to learn. I mean, if you find a job, I mean, the best source of is working with people, listening to people, and actually going and doing the job yourself. And if you don't know anything, we'll try to find the answers for you. But the best lifelong learning happens when you learn. You actually make mistakes and you learn from them. I think that's, you keep hearing that, and that happens when you actually go ahead and take your chance to do the job. So, yes, you're going to need tons of information that you podcast and anything. The best learning, lifelong learning happens when you get the actual.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I really want to thank you both for coming back to talk and sharing and sort of the magic of talk